I get there safe. Like, I really don't care. Like,
well, that's what submission is. That's what submission is that you
down that I think everybody is at some point deserving to receive love and to be even into marriage if they do aspire for marriage.
I believe that society shapes how we view things and how we look at things in our life.
Make your own bed. And that's basically what Kevin Samuels is saying. His delivery is what people kind of throws people off. But basically,
aggressive or like violent, like where I think toxic masculinity is
no offense to men, that they also get this idea that, you know, women are just going to take care of them and everything is going to be like easy.
A domestic violence shelter, and he brought her up to be, you know, a $25,000.
Hell yeah, you need to judge in dating. It is what it is. You know, you can't not judge people just because you feel bad about it. Like, you need to know.
As much as I love my daughter, there are some harsh realities and some things that her mother and I teach her in order to help her to understand.
Like, I'm sure everyone knows a woman that, you know, had sex all the time.
What is going on? Welcome back to CKQ Podcast. I'm your host, Clement. And if you're first time to the show, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel for more content like this. I'll typically say we go live once a week, but it's just me today. And until everyone else comes back, I'm your host, and I will entertain you. If a lot of this conversation, what I really wanted to have today is a lot on predominantly advice. A lot of what I'm seeing going on with especially men and women looking for advice in different spaces. Let's move this over to this side. In different spaces in different parts of the internet. There's been a huge boom, a huge rise of different people, men and women coming onto a panel and having conversations on relationships. And a lot of times, me personally, I don't think those conversations are turning out good. I don't really think those conversations are really helping out men or women. I think a lot of times in those moments, it's good content. Don't get me wrong. It's very good content. But a lot of times people are coming together and really just airing out their frustrations on each other. Like Hafiz from the Roommates podcast, he did a little collab with Just Pearly Things. And a lot of people were going after Hafiz, but I did understand what Hafiz was trying to say. This conversation that's happening is taking place on a lot of these different platforms. Both men and women come into spaces and talking relationships. It's really not helping each other get into relationships. A lot of men and women. We'll go over this video and you'll see what I mean. There you go.
She gets around. I don't know. I've kind of.
She does a thing.
I've kind of reached this point of like avoiding being unnecessarily disrespectful. So for me, I think this happens a lot in this space of like people get so obsessed with this conservative viewpoint of having to judge people, and I think people get a kick out of being like, you slept with 3 people 4 years ago, so you are bam, or if you don't do this, then you aren't good enough for these standards, X, Y, Z, and I get that. That is not wrong at all, but I think eventually, and I had a bad hinge day. I learned this like yesterday.
Bad hinge day?
Yeah, well, I went off on her about like, we were talking, and then she was obviously a feminist, and then we had that feminist conversation, and she
on
just...
a first date?
I filter. Listen,
That's smart.
if you have any of those like those like men are stupid or my brother's dumb because he wants to be in finance, he's supporting the patriarchy. I was like, oh right, so you're feminist. So what would you say if people thought you were like an asshole? That kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And I can afford to do that. But essentially, I got kind of reverse traumatized because she basically didn't say anything, and she was very intelligent, went to a top uni in London, and I kind of realized that traumatized me. I was like, well, she really didn't talk. She didn't like. Normally, the delusions come out and it's like this, that. And I kind of realized that was just unnecessarily mean, I guess. Like, even if she didn't meet any standards or she had any silly ideas about being, sexually liberated or how many people she slept with, I didn't really need to do that. Like, I could have seen the best in her and assumed she was a decent person who wants a meaningful relationship, which I think 99% of people are. But instead, I went with the Red Pill stuff and, So that's why I'm on this, like, do we have to call each other hoes? Could you just be like, that she's not for me?
Alex,
learn better language.
But there's a difference between going up to a random girl you don't know and calling her a hoe and describing what a hoe is.
And that's what I mean. I think that guy, I think Alex, they said what his name was, he was coming to a realization right there and then that a lot of times when these conversations are happening between men and women, people are just kind of airing out their frustrations against each other, especially when it comes to dating. Both sides think they have the shorter end of the stick when it comes to dating. Men will think they have it bad. Women think they have it bad. Women say, like there's zero good guys out here. Men are saying, like, yo, the women are trash out here. And I think that a lot of times both sides are too focused on trying to all get into a room and have a conversation instead of just doing actual work to fix your lives. This society is so degenerative that all we're all trying to do is kind of blame the other person the whole time. We live in an extremely degenerative society, and it's not promoting anything good. It really isn't, especially when it comes to relationships. And it's so crafty and it's so tricky because you would think the more we come together to try to have conversations, the better off it's going to be. But we don't really know how to have conversations. We just get to shouting arguments, shouting matches. But I'm not too sure. I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit. But let me ask a question. Does having the opposite sex group conversations benefit the opposite side? Nah, it just really isn't. I'll go to that again.
She gets around. I don't know. I've kind of.
She does a thing.
I've kind of reached this point of like avoiding being unnecessarily disrespectful.
And that right there, avoiding being unnecessarily disrespectful. When these conversations start happening, because there's so much feelings involved when a lot of times in these conversations, when men and women are coming together in groups and having these kinds of conversations, one side's going to feel attacked. The men are going to feel attacked, the women are going to feel attacked, and then they're going to start being unnecessarily disrespectful for no reason. And a lot of these, it's great content, don't get me wrong. Like there's a lot of different channels out there. I'm not going to blast out any channels, but there's a lot of different channels out there bringing people together in rooms. A lot of times the conversations are going to always, it starts out as a pretty like relationship talk and it always ends up at sex. Then it always transforms into something that everyone is just, it's just a constant talk about sex and talk how to kick down the other party. And to me, it just doesn't really make much sense. But I'm going off on a tangent at this point. Let's do this one.
If your last 7 relationships didn't work and you know that you're a good dude or you're a good woman and odds is just not in your favor every relationship you get in, it's just a total failure. But like deep down in your heart, like I'm a good person. I think that you should change your blueprint. I think whatever you been doing the last 7 times, whether you've met all your girlfriends in the strip club, stop dating strippers. You know, if you know that, okay, yeah, I'm a good person, but I allow people to walk all over me. Make sure when you get in your next relationship that you're more assertive. You know, if you're a woman and you know that every time you get with a man, you end up moving into his house or you end up moving him into your house. How about you take a different route and just say, I'm gonna live by my goddamn self. You know, knowing that you move too fast when when you're in relationships. How about you take the time this time and make him your friend? Don't have sex with him. Make him your friend. Get to know him. Get to know what he likes, what he doesn't like, his favorite this, his favorite that. Be his friend. I think so many times people fail at relationships because they don't become friends first. You don't know your partner. I don't care how long you've been with them. Yo, I'm going to give you the crazy example. You ever met someone and befriended them and said, it feels like I've known you forever?
Yeah.
Because you guys are friends. You guys have taken the time to understand each other, to understand things that the average person isn't pinpointing because they don't care. So when you're dating and you're in a relationship, there's certain things you already have set in your mind that you care about and you want to know. You're not looking to know these other things. And so when it fails, you're like, what did I do wrong? I was great. You know what I mean? I'm a great person. Like, no, you weren't. You weren't my friend first. Like, I think people need to take time to get to know the person that they're trying to get involved with.
Take time to get to know the person you're trying to get involved with. I don't even think we take time to even just say hello to the other person that we even involved with. I mean, I'm very guilty of this. And more recently in my life, I had to even reflect on a lot of the things that I've done in my past. I actually felt kind of bad. I felt kind of trashy about it. What's going on, Chris? What's going on? How you doing?
Good. Sorry I'm late. I'm a little bit out of breath.
No worries. No worries. I'm gonna wear a hat because my hair is a mess. But how you doing?
Good. The bow is back.
The bow is back. Of course.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing?
Pretty good. Excited to be here.
Good. Good. I'm glad. Looking like it might just be the two of us today. But
it's a party.
It's a party. That's it. All right. More than one's a party. Check out this video. I want you to look at this because I've come to this realization, and I think this guy, we were watching in real time. This was alive, and I was watching it in real time as this guy realized what the red pill is doing to his mind. And you'll notice it. All right.
I'm excited for this.
Good. Let me know if it's too low. I don't think it should be, but let me know.
She gets around. I don't know. I've kind of.
She does a thing.
I've kind of reached this point of like avoiding being unnecessarily disrespectful. So for me, and I think this happens a lot in this space of like people get so obsessed with this conservative viewpoint of having to judge people, and I think people get a kick out of being like, you slept with 3 people 4 years ago, so you are bam, or if you don't do this, then you aren't good enough for these standards, X, Y, Z, and I get that. That is not wrong at all, but I think eventually, and I had a bad hinge day. I learned this like yesterday.
Bad hinge day?
Yeah, well, I went off on her about like, we were talking, and then she was obviously a feminist, and then we had that feminist conversation, and she
on
just...
a first date?
I filter. Listen,
That's smart. Okay.
If you have any of those like, those like, oh, men are stupid, or my brother's dumb because he wants to be in finance, he's supporting the patriarchy. I was like, oh, right, so you're a feminist. So what would you say if people thought you were like an asshole? That kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And I can afford to do that. But essentially, I got kind of reverse traumatized because she basically didn't say anything, and she was very intelligent, went to a top uni in London, and I kind of realized that traumatized me. I was like, well, she really didn't talk. She didn't like. Normally, the delusions come out, and it's like this, that, and I kind of realized that was just unnecessarily mean, I guess. Like, even if she didn't meet any standards or she had any silly ideas about being, sexually liberated or how many people she slept with, I didn't really need to do that. Like, I could have seen the best in her and assumed she was a decent person who wants a meaningful relationship, which I think 99% of people are. But instead, I went with the red pill stuff, and So that's why I'm on this, like, do we have to call each other hoes? Could you just be like, that she's not for me?
But Alex, like,
learn better language.
But there's a difference between going up to a random girl you don't know and calling her a hoe and describing what a hoe is.
Thoughts?
Can we watch it again? There was a lot going on.
There was a lot going on. There was a lot going on. I don't blame you there. I'm like, come on, people, really?
I know. People are crazy.
Okay, one more time.
Okay, thank you.
Gets around. I don't know. I've kind of.
She does a thing.
I've kind of reached this point of like avoiding being unnecessarily disrespectful. So for me, and I think this happens a lot in this space of like people get so obsessed with this conservative viewpoint of having to judge people, and I think people get a kick out of being like, you slept with 3 people 4 years ago, so you are bam, or if you don't do this, then you aren't good enough for these standards, X, Y, Z, and I get that. That is not wrong at all, but I think eventually, and I had a bad hinge day. I learned this like yesterday.
Bad hinge day?
Yeah, well, I went off on her about like we were talking, and then she was obviously a feminist, and then we had that feminist conversation, and she
On
just
a first date.
I filter. Listen,
That's smart. Okay.
if you have any of those like those like, oh, men are stupid, or my brother's dumb because he wants to be in finance, he's supporting the patriarchy, I was like, oh right, so you're a feminist. So what would you say if people thought you were like an asshole? That kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And I can afford to do that. But essentially, I got kind of reverse traumatized because she basically didn't say anything, and she was very intelligent, went to a top uni in London, and I kind of realized that traumatized me. I was like, well, she really didn't talk. She didn't like. Normally, the delusions come out, and it's like this, that, and I kind of realized that was just unnecessarily mean, I guess. Like, even if she didn't meet any standards or she had any silly ideas about being, sexually liberated or how many people she slept with, I didn't really need to do that. Like, I could have seen the best in her and assumed she was a decent person who wants a meaningful relationship, which I think 99% of people are. But instead, I went with the Red Pill stuff, and So that's why I'm on this, like, do we have to call each other hoes? Could you just be like, that she's not for me?
But Alex, like,
learn better language.
But there's a difference between going up to a random girl you don't know and calling her a hoe and describing what a hoe is.
Thoughts?
So, okay. He was on a date with a woman, and then he described her.
She was
as
a feminist.
Yes. And so, but did he call her a 304, or did he just describe?
He never said anything about a 304. So the original conversation in longer form was that he was saying how, well, we should probably start characterizing these people as a better term. We can't just say like 304. We can't just say like blanket statements like we're doing now. Like, and then he gave the example of how he was out on the date with the feminist and decided like, since she's a feminist, I'm just going to throw all these red pill talking points at her. I'm just going to try to shut her whole conversation down. And she won up them by not even participating in that whole game. So it just turned out he was just there. And it actually kind of made himself reflect. In my opinion, I thought that was a great thing, because this did happen to me. I went through that same kind of scenario, whereas, I was kind of judging someone pretty harshly, and they didn't really do anything. Like, they were actually a very kind person, and in the end I had to really just take a step back. I was like, yo, why'd I do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Because I got kind of confused with what he was saying on how Pearl responded, but I agree with him.
Yeah, how Pearl responded, I was kind of like, well, I mean, this is
I feel like there's some context
yeah
that I'm missing, so thank you. I agree with him, like, and I think I like her response, and I like that she gave some context, because I think in her head she thinks that she's describing what 304s are, but that's not quite what's happening on a lot of those platforms, including hers. Exactly. It is very much like you slept with a lot of people. A lot is never define what a lot is.
Well, a lot is already going to be a lot.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just one, you're already way past the number that you need it to be.
Yeah, and then you just start calling them such a harsh word. And 304 is not the only one. There's channels where they talk about, like, they use a lot of very insulting terms. Like, I've heard whales. There's another woman that describes women that already have children as them having saggy breasts, and creating entire streams talking about, like, basically insulting these women because they had children and had to breastfeed them. They're like, what makes you think a man deserves you when you look like this? And it's awful. So I'm glad that he said it. I'm kind of curious about the rest of the stream to see like how they.
So a lot of other people disagreed with him. Everyone else disagreed, and that's why I was kind of like, dang, it's a shame that that is the good thing that he went through. I believe that's an awakening. I think that's a next step for him to actually move towards a happier, better relationships in his life. Because at that point in time, I've seen him multiple times on that stream, and he's very smart, very intelligent guy. He's very, factual, shuts down a lot of different points. But for him to have experienced that in the real world, where he just threw this person in this box and immediately went on attack mode, and that person was just like, I wasn't here to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great because he was kind of like, yo, what have I been doing this whole time? It really made him like self-reflect and really made him think like, all right, I've just been labeling people and just treating them based on my own thoughts as opposed to how they actually are. And I think, me personally, I think a lot of these conversations where you're seeing the panelists, like the men and women coming on one big panel and having conversations, I think it's very bad. I think it's detrimental, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you just said, and I think it's detrimental for a lot of different reasons. I think one thing I've noticed is, I think the biggest question I have is, do the people on the panels, like the hosts and everything, do they ever see any progression? Once they start running these streams, do they see any positive changes in their own personal lives? And I have yet to see like a lot of the people that enter into the manosphere go off and get married and have kids and then live like a happy life. Like, yeah, sometimes they'll talk about how much more money they're making now, or like some of them talk about how they lost weight, but they just kind of end up more single than they were before.
Yeah.
And then they just end up being very resentful and then kind of bitter towards people that I think they think they're better than for whatever reason.
And honestly, shout out to Osmosis and Reacts in the comment section. He said it right there. They see positive changes in that bank account. So they're really being incentivized to do the worst possible thing. And Pearl, her channel is blowing up crazy. Kudos to her. But a lot of times there's a lot of like vitriol that, I mean, look at exactly what we just played. Like, he was saying how he had this epiphany that, hey, maybe I can't just be trying to attack everyone. And she's like, well, no, if they're a hoe, you're just calling them a hoe. And I'm like, yo, you're keeping this like hatred going on. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a red pill rage, but these big panels where men and women come onto a platform, it just keeps fueling that. And a lot of people are just getting sucked into that. It's like a I mean, it's entertaining, don't get me wrong, but the worst possible things for you are typically going to be entertaining.
They always say sin feels good. I heard a woman say that, and I was like, that's really
feel
true.
good.
The worst things for you taste good, they feel good, and they're awful.
Yep.
It's a tough one. So I think before we talked about what Hafiz had said about other women in that particular sector in the manosphere. I guess, what do you think the goal of the manosphere is now? Because at first I thought it was going to help men find meaningful relationships, or men that were already in relationships, kind of fix them. But what do you think the goal is now, if there is one?
It's for them to keep making money, to grow their bank accounts. Really, I mean, why are they going to stop doing what they're doing? I mean, now the internet will find like-minded people, and finding like-minded people will keep you in that like state, in that cycle of I'm miserable and it's because of them. And you find a whole bunch of other people that are going to say we're all miserable and it's because of them. And it just keeps it going. And now no one really wants to get out of it, because to get out of it means you're going to go back to being by yourself again. So it's just much easier to just stay in that group. We are like pack animals. So we all want to be with the pack, moving with the pack.
Yeah, that's true. I've noticed that the manosphere has done a really good job of like shifting what a fact is to, like, now facts used to be an expert in that field has run a study and they have some form of evidence in support or not in support of whatever claim, right? And then you'd be able to run with that. But nowadays, I feel like watching the manosphere, it's if it sounds good enough and enough people agree with you, then it's a fact.
Yeah, you could create your own fact.
Yeah, and I find that it's kind of frustrating and it's super harmful because there, like even Kevin Samuels, there are certain things that he would say where I was just like, oh my gosh, like he just screwed a lot of people over. People are going to run with that. And that's it. You know,
Yeah.
they don't know why they believe it. They don't know why it's true, but because he has a large amount of supporters and he looks rich, they're going to believe him.
Well put together, and that's true. If you say things well and you have yourself put together enough, a lot of people will listen. But also, even going on with, so you have the same. Do you believe that like women being in the manosphere is a bad thing?
Yes, to an extent. I think the single women in the manosphere are not helpful at this point. So I know there's a big difference between the married women and the single women. The married women, from what I've seen, obviously I can only see so much. The married women are giving tips on how women can be more feminine, right? So they're putting out like feminine tip of the day and just being a bit more positive. But I noticed that the single women, when I go past their pages, it's like body count matters and long
Manosphere talking points.
Yes, and it's like insulting.
Yeah.
You know, baby mama, just all types of stuff. Lose weight. It's just stuff that, you know, they are things that you want to talk about, but they're not helpful.
They're damaging.
Like women are not going to get married simply because they keep weight off, right? Or simply because they're childless. It could help, but that's not the main factor. That's not what makes you feminine. But I think that's all those women know because they're not really having, like, they don't really have a relationship, which I don't know the relationship business, but I can make an educated guess. I assume they don't have something where they're able to practice this stuff. I think I mentioned this before. If they were practicing femininity, they couldn't make the videos that they're making. It would be out of their nature.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably gonna be damaging for them a lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think what sucks about it is that they're getting a lot of attention from men they wouldn't be interested in, right? And so the reason why is so like the attention's really negative because they're thinking, wow, like I could go onto the streets right now and get a man if I really wanted to. And so in their head they think I'm single because I'm choosing to. They talk about women that think that, like say that out loud, but they don't realize that that's kind of where they are too. Like they're headed down that road.
Just in a different way now.
Exactly. But because they have all these male supporters, they don't think that they're on the same level as women on Instagram that are saying things like that, for example. They have a lot of female supporters. But it's like the same thing, different flavor.
That's interesting because now this is kind of untested. So this is the first time women, like successful females, are in the manosphere, like in the manosphere space. So now a lot of them are blowing up quickly, making bank, you know, gaining a lot of options, gaining a lot of males coming toward them, throwing them a lot of money. So they truly believe they have a lot of options. But I mean, I would like to think that they're smart enough, but that money probably blinds them a little bit.
Well, it's nature. It's needing a man is like, it's like an actual physical state, you know. And if you're able to have all these men provide you with a lifestyle, it's really easy to overlook like a man actually being there and actually choosing just you because, you know, they're young. So they're not seeing it yet. So yeah, they're blinded. They're blinded by what looks like provision because they don't need protection yet, and they also don't need parental investment yet. But once they're ready to like settle down and have kids, they're gonna realize like, oh shoot, I did the same thing that I spent months talking about other women doing. And maybe not, but that's the realization I had a few months ago, where I was like, this is kind of backwards. Like, something about this just isn't right.
Yeah,
Like, I should. Yeah, like, all of my content is about women, but women don't really follow me. Everyone in my chat are a bunch of men.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense, but I'm holding women accountable. How can I hold overweight women accountable, or what I consider 304 women accountable, if those women don't feel comfortable watching my content?
Because now that you're saying that, I'm thinking it's not so much as holding women accountable, but just giving them the antidote. Like, the whole manosphere is a manosphere because men need to be treated that way. We need to be held accountable. We need to be told, this is what you're doing wrong, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong. And then we'll say, okay, that makes sense, because we're not as emotional about it. So we're just going to say, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I am kind of fat. All right, I'm going to go to the gym. And that's it. And that's really like the manosphere content. That's how it typically works for men. But for women, if you're going to try to apply the same antidote, women aren't going to like that. But that's where now, like, a lot of people are gaining a lot of traction, because women aren't going to like that antidote. And they're going to fight back at it. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And what sucks about that is that they're writing that off as these women just not wanting to, be held accountable. And these women and some of them obviously are a little bit delusional, but
Sure.
You can't say that about all of these women. That's just not how women communicate. Women don't talk to each other that way, And I asked my femininity coach, I was like, I'm having issues. Like, I have this channel and women aren't watching me. I don't know why. And she was like, you have to work on your empathy. Like, you have to acknowledge where these women are, and then like, you have to validate their feelings, and then you can help them, like, reach a solution. But you can't just hit them with statistics and solutions and tell them what they're doing wrong. They're not going to be responsive to that. And I just realized, like, the manosphere just probably isn't the best space for women to get advice. It's just
you can educate yourself here on men, but not try to give out that same advice and hope that women will take it, because you'll get. Hence why a lot of these women in the manosphere have a lot of men following their content, because the men can understand that. It's kind of like, okay, well, 1 + 1 = 2. Duh, it makes sense. You want to get the man of your dreams. Well, lose weight. Okay, but it can't work the same way. And I think because this way is making so much more money, we're getting away from a lot of that men improving themselves. And I think, going back to what you were saying, I think that's what's happening right now with the manosphere. A lot of what male content, or that's why, like, the dating market, especially for a lot of these men, is so destroyed, because now they're focusing so much on what the women have to do that they aren't actually doing a lot of work themselves.
Exactly.
But let's I want to check out this next video real quick. You ready? All right.
If your last 7 relationships didn't work, and you know that you're a good dude or you're a good woman, and odds is just not in your favor, every relationship you get in, it's just a total failure, but like, deep down in your heart, like, I'm a good person, I think that you should change your blueprint. I think whatever you been doing the last 7 times, whether you've met all your girlfriends in the strip club, stop dating strippers. If you know that, okay, yeah, I'm a good person, but I allow people to walk all over me. Make sure when you get in your next relationship that you're more assertive. If you're a woman and you know that every time you get with a man, you end up moving into his house, or you end up moving him into your house, how about you take a different route and just say, I'm gonna live by my goddamn self. Knowing that you move too fast when you're in relationships, how about you take the time this time and make him your friend? Don't have sex with him. Make him your friend. Get to know him. Get to know what he likes, what he doesn't like, his favorite this, his favorite that. Be his friend. I think so many times people fail at relationships because they don't become friends first. You don't know your partner. I don't care how long you've been with them. Yo, I'm gonna give you the crazy example. You ever met someone and befriended them and said, it feels like I've known you forever?
Yeah.
Because you guys are friends. You guys have taken the time to understand each other, to understand things that the average person isn't pinpointing because they don't care. So when you're dating or you're in a relationship, there's certain things you already have set in your mind that you care about and you want to know. You're not looking to know these other things. And so when it fails, you're like, what did I do wrong? I was great. You know what I mean? I'm a great person. Like, no, you weren't. You weren't my friend first. Like, I think people need to take time to get to know the person that they're trying to get involved with.
Question. Can you know that you're in a good person in a relationship?
Oh. That's a good question. It's like philosophical. I think so. Yeah, I think you'll learn real quick based on like how mindful you are, how compassionate you are, how considerate you are of this other person. Like, I think your more like selfish characteristics come out pretty quickly in a relationship if you care. If you care about what this person thinks about you.
But I mean, there's a lot of like selfish people that also think they're good people. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people that end in relationships. I mean, I'm not the worst of people, but I think there's a lot of things that I could have been better at when it came to relationships. You know what I mean? So, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I'm good. Like, I had no problems.
That is true. It's to be the worst people that actually admit to being good. And you're like, no.
Exactly.
But it's like, how do you measure it? How do you measure good,
So I was thinking, would it be measured by how either your past relationships have been, but then depending on how that end, they could just probably give you a bad number. Either that or close family members that were involved in the relationships, that actively knew the relationships as they were going.
I think it would have to be the person involved, because even family members, they're a little bit biased, because. Sorry.
Wouldn't the person involved be biased as well? Oh, okay.
Sorry, I had to sneeze. I'm still here. The person involved. Well, I think they have more of an incentive to tell you the truth because they have been in a relationship with you forever.
Okay.
Versus family members want to hurt your feelings and couldn't care less about the person you're with. Well, they care, but they don't really, it's not really going to affect them if they tell you to improve in your relationship, if that makes sense. I guess, yeah, they're both biased. But maybe someone that you were with before. So maybe asking like a prior person you're in a relationship with, how you were.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, if it didn't end in a poor way, in a bad way. Hey, how you doing, Japrice? If it didn't end in a bad, like, volatile way, then let's see. What's up, Snuggles? I'd like to see people do more collabs with other YouTubers from different cultures if I have the chance. Yeah, could be a thing. I'd like to see your platform grow. Oh, yeah. I could do more to make it grow, for sure. But I'd definitely like it to grow organically. I don't want to start putting out kind of salacious things that'll bring everyone in here thinking this is red pill content. Red pill, manosphere, let's come here, bash women kind of content. And it was very enticing to make it that way in the beginning. I'm not going to lie to you. Just because it was like, all right, let's get people on a panel. And everyone just starts slinging the truth everywhere. And there's just just like that guy was saying, there's just a right time to be saying things. And there's a right way to say things, just because it's a spade, you don't have to tell it it's a spade right there and then. Probably tell it in the back room, I'd have to.
Was it on me?
Mm-hmm.
What was the last thing that we said?
What are you thinking?
Okay. I think we said asking someone from a prior relationship. Was that what it was? I think I was thinking about that. But I think the biggest mistake that people make in relationships is that they leave a relationship thinking I'm going to find someone different from the last person rather than I'm going to be different in this relationship that I was in the last one to try and make this one work. Like they're so focused on what the other person is doing instead of how they were in it. And so asking a person you're with prior, the last couple people you're with prior, and just getting like trying to gauge their perspective of you in it would help people, I think, so much more. Because I don't think many people know that they are really bad in relationships.
Yeah.
Like they don't know how to be with someone else.
Yeah, and a lot of times in relationships, we don't even point out that because we love the person, we don't want to say something in a wrong way. So sometimes we just don't say anything at all. You know what I mean? And they end up not really knowing how to deal with whatever issue that they have, or even that they had an issue. And that's typically when you're out of the relationship, then it's much easier to tell that person, hey, this was what your issue was. But when you're emotionally involved, it's like, I don't want to hurt this person. But I mean, it would be smart to kind of get over that because a lot of relationships would benefit from that. Hold up. What's going on, Unique? Hold up. I see Snuggles blowing up the chat over here. Can you explain how a right way to say things sounds like? Well, it depends on what you're saying.
And who you're saying it to.
And who you're saying it to. You know, you could probably tell a guy you're fat, but you could probably tell a woman you wouldn't just say you're fat. You probably have to find a different way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about how the message is received, not so much on how you're delivering the message. Well, the delivery matters. Actually, that's what I meant. That's the delivery matters.
Mm-hmm.
And too much of times in this kinds of conversations when it comes to men and women in the same space, yeah, the men are saying the right things, but you got to wonder if all these women are taking it a specific way. You probably got to change how you're saying it. It's not about your what you're saying and being right. It's about they're still not receiving it. If you're testing out a drug, if a doctor is testing out a drug on patients and most of them are dying, and you're saying, well, I have all the right stuff inside of this, should be working. Are you still going to keep trying that same drug or just switch it up? When are you going to switch up the chemicals? You know, when are you going to actually try something different? So that's my thought on it.
And I think if you're talking about particularly like in a romantic relationship, I think that goes back to last week of what should you ask before you marry somebody or get too serious.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask somebody how they like to receive feedback. Like if I have something difficult to bring up to you, how should I bring it up to you? Is there a certain time that should I write down and see how that person would like to receive it, so you know that when you bring it up, it's going to be productive versus just assuming. Like I think there's a lot of things that you could just ask the person that you're with versus just, you know, letting it blow out however you like whenever you can't hold it in anymore, you know.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, because we do wait till that blow up moment. But these conversations do need to be happening. We need to find ways to be better. What is the purpose of men and a woman? What is the purpose of men and a woman's existence in a country that made it easier for women to live without men? I think it's the idea. I think it's the perception that it's easier to live without men, but most women feel women go a lot based a lot more off of feelings, so they know I can't live without a man. The difference is men are trying so hard to move like gaining a woman's favor, and that's what's setting men back. Because showing the woman, yeah, I can live without this man. He needs my favor. I don't need him, so I don't really have to try as hard. And it's kind of giving a lot of women like kind of a warped mindset, I would say. So a lot of guys kind of chasing women is what really puts them in this I don't need men mindset. And I'm not sure. What do you think?
I think, okay, so for the question itself, it's more so the country made it easier to live in general. It didn't just make it easier to live without men. And I think the warped part is the fact that because women are generally able to survive on their own for just a longer period of time. And so basically we were just able to extend the amount of time that women didn't need provision from a man, right? Because they can go work themselves. But it just it's easier to just live in general, even for men. Like testosterone rates for men are going down drastically too.
Yeah.
The world or not the world, but at least our country, this country, things just got easier in general. And the purpose of men didn't change. Like women still want to have kids, men still want to have kids. Gender roles still work. The issue is that when people decide to put that in place was just delayed. Instead of them doing it in their early 20s, getting married and having kids earlier in life, they were just able to delay it a little bit longer. But at some point, they do realize that they need each other.
They were able to push back that clock.
Yeah.
You see a lot of men chase women. Can you explain where they get the teaching of chasing a woman from, if you don't mind me asking? Well, it's biological, but we're higher thinking mammals. We can't constantly move off of, oh, these are my biological instincts. And I would say that's kind of like the problem with what I have with the manosphere, when it's like, oh, a woman has to be more than her biology. She has to override that instinct of hypergamy and settle down with the best man that she can, or a good man when she can. But for men, there is no fighting your biology. It's kind of like, oh, I'm just gonna do whatever I want when I can do it. Like where the accountability needs to happen on both sides for any kind of cohabitation to happen. Now there are the women that are going to accept different things like that, but most of the time that's not the women that men actually want. These same men that are purporting that. Snuggles throwing out these questions. Gender roles still work. Can people on the panel give us a brief synopsis of what gender roles you all are talking and what should it be? You understand that, Chris?
Yeah, the gender roles. Because I was saying how gender roles still work. Like men still do well providing, women, like that's still kind of in place. Women still want that, men still want that. They just want it later in life. So I think they're asking, since I said they still work, Snuggles is just asking if they work, what do they look like? So gender roles are basically women and men falling into the roles and responsibility that they are better at. So the best example I can give is they did a study. I can't remember who did the study. I read this in another book that I was reading that referenced this study. But basically they had a bunch of different teams of pairs, a man and a woman. And basically they had a team where they were able to choose what roles they wanted to do. And then they had a team where they assigned them basically to the same roles, and they had to work together on those same roles. And the team where they were able to pick, they typically found out that there were just things that each of them were better at and more successful at, and they got along much better in doing those separate roles. So like the men were typically better at building and the other stuff that men are good at, building and fixing and all that. The women were better at like mending and sewing and things that require like smaller hands and more attention to detail. And they got along better. They had less tension. They had less anxiety. But then the team where they were doing the same roles, they were more anxious. They had more tension. They didn't get along as well. And basically the point of that was to just show that there are just certain things that basically it's really difficult when someone is obviously better than you and you have to do that same job and you're not doing it as well. It just creates this like level of anxiety that you have where you are now competing with them versus working towards the same goal as them, if that makes sense. So that's kind of an idea of why it works. And then what it looks like now is the basic stuff: men working, women being at home, cleaning and mending and cooking and all of that good stuff. Yeah. I don't know if that was brief, but I hope it answers your question.
that was pretty good. Unique, what's going on? So happy. Still can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
Yeah. All right. Well, don't worry. We're gonna let you adjust that, fix that, do whatever you gotta do. Oh, I got a reverb. Chris talk. Well, you're getting. Yeah, we're getting reverb through. Oh, there we go. It stopped now. Hold on. Snuggle's hitting us with like 20 questions right now. In your culture, given the things that you said about men and women relationships, what is the difference in your culture that makes it hard for people to relate to something that should be natural? What is the difference in your culture that makes it hard for people to relate to things that should be natural? Well, yes, hear you now.
It's a little bit low, but we can hear you.
Yeah, it's still a little bit low.
Maybe get closer.
Where's the mic? Move it closer.
The mic is right here.
There we go. Now you're much louder.
The mic don't gotta be that close for me to hear. This mic is
okay. Now it's super loud.
I think there was a case that something was off, but it seemed like it came in full force when you lifted it.
okay.
What did you say? Okay. That makes it hard for people to relate to something that should be natural. Well, culture. The culture still in your culture, but the culture still plays a big part in how people are moving and how people are raised as well. You know, there's nature versus nurture, but nurture still plays a big part. Like nurture is yes how you're raised, but then the culture is also nurturing you, and if the culture is pushing women in this way and pushing men in the opposite direction, then yeah, we can try to get along as much as we want, but the culture is just not. We're gonna have a lot of clashes. We're gonna run into a lot of issues due to men thinking like, okay, women want us to be this way, and women thinking, okay, this is what men really want, and this is what we're shown from such a small age as well. Yeah, you can grow up and know that like a man naturally. That's nature. He knows that he wants a woman. He wants kids. But the culture is telling him, okay, well, this is how women want you to step to them. And that is going to be, pretty counterproductive to actually getting that woman. What do you think?
I think to even be more specific, it's hormonal birth control. Like I think most of the issues that we see today when it comes to like going against nature comes from birth control, like hormonal birth control for women. It affects, so basically what hormonal birth control does, at least the pill, is it puts women in the second half of their cycle, which is called the luteal phase. I won't go too much into it. Basically, that's the phase where women want to feel like safe and secure, a bit more isolated. The first half of the cycle is basically how a woman chooses a man with masculine traits and characteristics. So basically right now what they're finding is that women that are on birth control, they don't choose men that are as masculine. And it's like the birth control has overridden nature.
Female biology.
It would stop that entire process. And also, if it's also made it to where, so basically, this is a theory that evolutionary psychologists have. When a woman is in the first half of her cycle, she's like, that's when she's entering like her fertile window and she's ovulating. Men, basically, it gives off like pheromones, I think is what this called, and men can like smell that in the air, literally. And birth control stopped that, and so men aren't able to like smell fertile women, and it's affecting how men produce testosterone. I think testosterone has gone down like 1% per year, I think, basically since birth control has been introduced.
Interesting. So the because of birth control, that's why men's testosterone are dropping.
That's not the only reason why.
But that's an interesting, because I didn't even think of something like that. So on a biological level, men just aren't smelling enough women in heat, essentially.
And essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Not quite heat, but essentially, yeah.
Unique. Can you hear me? Yeah. What's going on? How you doing?
All right.
Yeah, you having a rough day.
I thought I was having a good day. You know how they let you work the whole day. But yeah. What's the topic? What's the question?
Well, we got a married lady, an engaged lady, and a single man all giving advice to the masses. That's what we're doing.
But what are you asking me? What am I talking
I'm asking you, do you think you see like a lot of the podcasts where men and women are coming together and having these conversations about relationships? Do you think that's beneficial?
Yeah.
Think so?
To have a conversation?
Yeah, coming together and having these conversations.
If it's constructive, if it's something like you trying to gain some clarity, you're trying to understand, then yeah. But if it's just to talk shit, then
I mean, but from what you've seen, has it predominantly been productive?
the ones that have been productive, you don't see. That's the problem. So the ones that have all the tea and the arguing and those are the ones you see. So it's like, why are we talking? We ain't making no progress. Look at that. But there are other shows on YouTube, including this one, that come together and we try to help and we talk positive. So I think it's a good thing if you're doing what we're doing. But the ones that's popular, no.
Yeah, that's the battling back and forth.
Yeah, like I'm tired of that. Like, why are we still battling? Like each other, we're not the enemy. Like you, not to say that you have to find the enemy, but why are we fighting each other? It's like it doesn't make sense to me. It just seems like it's just entertainment for people instead of it being progress, instead of it being understanding.
So Chris and I were talking about it, and I think we both came up with that it's just bad. Well, I think it's purely bad. I think she said it's mostly bad, but there's still some good in it, right? Sitting on the fence as usual, Chris. Typical.
I was very specific. I said the single women versus the married women make a difference.
Okay. Fair enough.
I didn't say it. I did not. Those words did not come out of my mouth. I don't think so. Hopefully not.
That's fair enough. You did say that. You're like this. The married women actually give very good advice. The single women say all the stuff that the manosphere does say, and that's what really kind of a lot of women don't want to hear, and that's why they start saying, pick me, blase, blah, this and that,
But what about married women who are divorced Do you think you can get good advice from her?
Say that one more time.
A married woman who's divorced, somebody who was married and now they're divorced.
I mean, that depends on the kind of. I would say that depends on the kind of information that they're giving. If the kind of information that they're giving is like, well, if it's counterintuitive to everything that they've done, if it's like, okay, just blow up my whole script and just go completely in the opposite direction, then I think it's just bad advice. As I think that's a place coming from her, because I see there's a lot of like, there's some married women with kids, with a family and everything like that, and then they decide to divorce, and then they'll tell the like younger generation, like, don't focus at all on the man, or not even don't focus on the man, but they'll say you got to get your career in line, you got to get all that stuff first, just in case the man ends up leaving. And I think that's just detrimental advice, because if you tell them, okay, here's where I made a mistake in my marriage, you know what I mean? If you say, this is the crack that happened in my marriage, prior to that everything else was good, because now you're telling them, okay, change the whole blueprint, and you as the married or the divorced woman have no idea where they're going to end up, because now you just flipped the whole script on them. You at least had a script that wasn't followed to a T, or something, some kind of pebble happened in there and there was no one to really kind of help you out that crack. But now you're not even giving them the same blueprint. You're just saying, figure this out with what I think is a better way. But it's not really tested. It's just what you think. So that's what I would say to that. As a level-headed as you all seem to be, why don't those people gravitate to information that you all have tried to disseminate or even figure out? Well, because anything that kind of points the finger back at you or in the person in the mirror, people don't really want to kind of listen to. I mean, a lot of times I'm saying, what, for men not to really sleep around that much, like kind of focus on your life, get with one person, actually focus your efforts into that one person, and not try to have a rotation of different people. Because I think truly that's what a lot of women want, is someone to actually just give them attention. Most women want attention, but they want attention from a man that they think is worth something. And all you have to do is have some sort of plan with your life. It doesn't have to be a plan drawn out to a T, but have some sort of plan with your life. Have things that you do in your life that's not going to just be, sitting around and watching Netflix. Get out of the house sometime, and then give them attention. And I think that's really all you need. But the masses of people don't really want to hear that, especially on YouTube. But the masses of people want to point at each other and say, you're the problem.
I have a question about
go ahead.
As like, that's all women want. They just want the attention, and if they get it, they'll be satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Not true. Not true.
Okay. So
I feel like,
prove me wrong.
No, I mean, I feel like maybe because I speak in the sense of everybody is different, and to me, relationships are more than just that linear thing of I give you what you give me, you demand,
Mm-hmm.
you woman. I think it's more than just that. It's a relationship, so it's more spiritual to me. So it may not resonate with everybody. Like the same situations may not resonate with everybody. So I feel like just because somebody is getting attention from outside, what happens when you can't give that attention? How do you know that person really was with you for you or just for the attention? So to me, it's like you should, and even when you're in a relationship, you should always be trying to make yourself happy too. Like what you want to be.
Yeah.
What, you know what I'm saying? So you're not always dependent on somebody else to make you happy. Because then you never be happy. You know what I'm saying? So I know it's like, I don't know if it's bearing off whatever you were saying, but when you were saying that, it just thought about to me that when you begin a relationship, that's when you get a lot of attention. You get a whole lot of attention, and then it veers off a little bit, and then you got problems because you're not, getting that. And to me, if you already had it in yourself and you was already happy within yourself, whatever that person did or did not do wouldn't matter.
True. I agree. I agree with that. That's why I say you should have things that you're already doing in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't just be sitting there watching Netflix. You really should be figuring out yourself. I think that's hard in this generation because there's so many, not even hard, but it's kind of, there's so many things to distract us in this generation. Like there's nothing that's stopping you from going out and trying going out for a marathon, or going to some kind of weird juggling convention or something like that. Something weird, just getting out and enjoying your life a little bit. But TikTok is sitting right there on my phone, so I'm just gonna spend the whole day scrolling through TikTok, going through YouTube, going through Facebook. There's a lot of distractions everywhere that, it stops us, even religiously, it stops us from going to church. It really stops us from doing a lot of the work. Even Christians have this same kind of issue. So it's attacking everywhere in our lives. It's not just in dating. It attacks us spiritually. It's attacking us in maybe even our finances, because we are a lazier generation as well.
Because a formula shortage and we're going crazy. That's an example. You look into the government to feed your children. You look into the outside when you have your God-given stuff to feed your children. You got nature to feed your children.
Say that one more time.
I feel like that's another example, like as far as like looking to outside, like what you said with the finances. When there was a milk shortage, like a baby formula shortage, they were going crazy. And it's like you have the natural thing.
You literally produce it from your body. Your body was made to do this.
Exactly. And for the women that can't produce it themselves, there should have been enough for them. Like baby formula should be emergency use. It shouldn't be default. And I feel like now it's like default. Like they're getting back to encouraging moms to breastfeed. But the reason is because they want moms to work, and moms, it's so incredibly difficult for moms to breastfeed when they're working. They go back to work after 6 weeks, and that time keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And
they're giving dads paternity leave now.
Some
right?
places.
They're gonna switch that real soon. So the woman after birth, you gotta hop right back in the office, but the dad can stay home for 8 weeks. Okay. So that's
I don't think the paternity leave was ever longer than the maternity leave. I think they're
it wasn't as long as maternity leave, but it's probably like a couple of weeks.
It's either the same amount or shorter, but I don't think it's ever longer. And I don't think most men take the whole thing.
No. Most of the time, any man that's actually in a relationship, having kids, having a family, they've stepped up to some kind of plate, I would say. Does it
either watching the kid while the woman work or working while the woman watching the kid? Either one.
What up, Carl?
Hey guys, I am.
How you doing, my man?
Hey, the bow tie is back. Wow.
Where's it? Have I not had the bow tie in that long?
You haven't had? Yeah, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
It was out of the dry cleaners, guys. I'm sorry.
No, I like what Ev said. It's pure laziness. How people prefer to microwave instead of cooking. So yeah, let's get the formula instead of giving them breastfeeding. So that generation wanted that convenience.
We're the microwave generation, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just convenience, because I feel like it's harder to go to Walmart and have the person come unlock the thing for you to hand you the formula. Then you have to go to like a special aisle, wait in line in that aisle for them, because they can't. Nowadays they have to lock the formula for
which Walmart you go to.
Yeah, versus just whipping it out for your kid to drink from.
That's true.
And it's like how much of it is
convenient
and how much of it is
I'm gonna tell you something, and this is just my observation. I saw a lot of women there when they got pregnant. They wasn't planned. This is why I keep going about accidental pregnancy. They didn't plan on how to take care, because the first thing I saw a lot of women do, WIC program. So we just negate, right?
I love the WIC program.
No. I'm just saying. In other words, we're more conditioned to look for help outside than prepare for ahead of time. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not breastfeeding, so let me go ahead.
But I just couldn't do it for long.
That's
because
the
of work.
problem. Exactly.
Yeah, and I did pump in between to try to save some, you know.
But it's hard. And then women don't realize that your body, in order for you to produce breast milk, you have to rest. And work takes a lot of energy out of you.
You have to have a lot of fluid in you.
Yep. You have to eat a certain amount, and you typically don't eat as much when you're working.
Plus, we don't want to get that Henny mixed up and that weed you was smoking and a vape. We don't want to get that into the breast milk. So I get it.
Oh shit! What are you saying, bro?
You know, I am a weed smoker and drink. I love being pregnant. I did dream about smoking, but I never did while you're pregnant. I loved it. Like, I waited real late to be pregnant, but I loved it. I mean,
and why leave the evidence in the child? I get it.
I think you're making a good point, though, Carl, because I think, I think going to what Nick was saying about you have to go back to work and then you just can't do it for as long. I think the issue isn't the fact that women don't. The issue is not WIC. It's not like, how can I get help after? I do think that the accidental pregnancies are an issue. And I think that if they had more of a plan, it would be easier to kind of mitigate all of that. Like if they said, okay, I am pregnant, so how can I figure out how I can not work for at least a year after I have this baby? But those questions don't get asked. So I don't think WIC is the problem. I think the problem is women just go straight to, I have to provide for my child, versus, is there any way I can work with the father who hopefully I'm married to? Most of the time they're not.
Most of the time.
Where he can do most of the working and I can take as much time as I need off of work. Maybe we come up with a 2-year plan and then I can ease back into work part-time.
That's some jealousy shit too, you know that. Because you're saying basically, I was sucking on them before you got pregnant. Now you're pregnant. Now you're breastfeeding. Now I won't get a chance to suck on them until God knows when. Because you tired.
What do you mean? So you think women, you can't do that while you're breastfeeding?
Hell no. You can't have a grown man sucking on them and going through that sensuality part of it all and still breastfeed a child and then turn around and talk about, oh, well, I got to get rest. I got to get a build up. Come on. I'm just saying, it could be complicated.
Ain't nobody saying you got to suck a dry, but damn.
What the hell? What are you guys?
I'm sorry.
I don't understand how that even came up.
I'm sorry. We just went into that talking about.
I'm sorry. I miss Doc, so I'm going to try.
668, because he is like asking a million questions.
Yeah, he's dropping the questions crazy. So what is the purpose of breastfeeding and is it different from formula?
What's the purpose? To feed your child.
Ooh. I'm going to admit something real quick. All right. The last 2-3 days, actually longer than that, but the last 2 days, my tooth has been hurting.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you right now, and don't sit here and look at me crazy. I'm strongly believing that when you eat pussy, it does something to make your tooth stop hurting.
What?
I just wanted to admit that.
Okay. Moving on. Moving on. I thought you were going to say something about the, breastfeeding and the formula, but sure. Hey.
No. It goes to it because see, the correlation here is the woman's body, the nutrients that she provides can do so much good for the man, his health, to children. It's just the woman's body has so many nutrients. I'm very sure it can cure a lot of things. And I think we should, don't take that for granted. So that's why I said it wrongly, but backwards. But like I said, if it can cure headaches, it can cure my tooth hurting. Damn it, breast milk, it made us big and strong. The woman's body got a lot of nutrients that's benefiting for everybody. That's all I want to pay homage to.
I don't really know too much about difference between breast milk versus formula. I would assume that the formula probably, I mean, the breast milk probably has a lot more. No, that's based on the mother, right? If she actually is getting the right amount of nutrients in her body, right?
I would think so.
But because it's breast milk, it's gonna naturally, the stuff that's good for the baby is gonna go into that breast milk, but also the stuff that might be bad. Like I said. So it does depends on what the woman is eating.
Versus formula.
To even produce it, like as women, you have to eat like still oatmeal a lot. That'll help your breast milk.
So the formula is basically the artificial version of an actual woman natural nutrient.
Correct.
The chemically derived version of breast milk.
No, I'll take the original.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oftentimes, formula is made from some type of soy-based or milk-based powder, and obviously, soy is typically not good for boys, and then milk generally isn't good for any human because it was made for cows. It's genuinely more harsh on a lot of kids' stomachs, which is why they have so many variations of it.
My son was on soy for a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Breastfeed no more.
Japri, click the link at the top of the chat to join if you have time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I realized it, he was already like 5 and using it, 5 or 6, and then I told him, we're gonna have to try something else. We can't keep having that because he wouldn't eat. Yeah, eating problems. So he would drink that milk to get his nutrients. So and it was soy.
I remember there was a thing about learning disability was more contributed from the artificial as opposed to the natural.
Probably. But this whole conversation was a reason why we started this is because we were talking about us always looking to the outside.
Outsourcing.
Yeah, and versus inside. So just kind of bring it back to I guess.
Okay.
To the relationship.
Oh yeah, that's how it started.
So basically laziness and convenience.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so I got one more thing to watch. All right.
All right.
You don't have to mute yourselves because Chris told me how to do some cool things now.
This with you all, and I'm probably gonna catch some heat for it, but I decided to go ahead and be open about it. So there's a couple that I helped a couple of months back in regards to the relationship, right? And I knew that it wasn't gonna work. I knew it wasn't going to work, but I couldn't tell them that it wasn't going to work. I just had to do whatever I could, give them as many exercises to practice, to utilize in the relationship, to implement, to see if it could work. But I knew deep down in my heart that it probably wasn't going to work, right? And I'm only saying this because I know a lot of times women feel like they can do no wrong. And the crazy thing about it is the man is in an outstanding relationship now. And the woman, it's not. She's suffering. She's going through it. So she reached out to me, and this is a story I want to tell you guys. So she goes, Kitty, I did everything that you told me to do, blah, 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 blah. And mind you, I've talked to this man already. He's reached out to me. And everything that I taught them, everything I told them, utilize, implement, he's doing it now in the relationship that he is in. That was just the wrong woman. And I'm sorry, baby, if you see this video, I know I've already told you, you were just not the woman. So she asked me, Kitty, what did I do wrong? And I said, do you want me to be raw with you? And she said, yes. Okay. So I told her, okay, you had this princess syndrome where you felt like it always had to be me, and everything that I said went. and that if I was not right, he was not going to be happy. You belittled him. You emasculated him. I said, you didn't watch your tone. You reacted before you responded. You didn't take time to comprehend what it was that he was saying. And he heard you nagging instead of actually listening. You waited to play that number plus one game. Okay, this is a number of things that you have done to me that he's telling you. And then you say, well, this is a number of things that you have done to me plus one. You had a warped mindset to where you believe that, hey, it's going good right now, and I need a little bit of attention. So bad attention is better than no attention. Instead of understanding that now you are transitioning into a healthier space. So there's going to be peace. It is going to be serene. But you didn't know how to adapt to peace and serenity because of your chaos from your childhood and your past traumas. You brought those into this relationship and you blamed him for the mistakes of your partner. I asked her, do you want me to continue? Because the list can go on. And everything that I told you to do, as you're saying you did it, you did not. You went back to what it is that you knew. And she said, well, Kitty, can I get him back? You can't get him back. You lost him, and you should not be worrying about getting a partner back until you fix yourself. And the only way to fix yourself, as I always say, ladies, is to be accountable for your shit. And I understand it sucks when they move on. But I'm glad that he moved on because he was ready. It was the right time for him, and you were the wrong person.
Thoughts?
Wow.
Thoughts?
Wow. Ladies first. I got that one.
I'm glad she said that at the end. I think a lot of women leave relationships and they say, he just wasn't ready with this for me, so he was stringing me along all those years so he can prepare himself for somebody else. And it's like, no, sometimes you just weren't good enough, and it sucks to suck. And it's like hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. But I see this now. I see this now with like 50-year-old women, and I tell them like, hey, you're not as great as you think you are. From everything that you've explained to me, I think you're the problem. And they're like, no, I'm not going to fix it until he fixes it. I'm like, see, but the thing is that if you just fix it, he'll just adjust because he's reacting to you reacting to nothing. And they don't listen. And then I'm hearing stories about these men. They had plans with this woman, and now they're like, I don't want to go forward with her anymore. And I just think to myself, like, I told you.
Yeah.
But there's nothing you can do. Everything is on him. Everything is his fault, and they just do not see
what culture is
what they do wrong.
What?
No, he keep saying your culture, your culture. So where are you from, Snubble? Every question got your culture in it. So what are you?
Yeah.
Asking.
I don't know. But
right.
thoughts on the video. Thoughts on the video.
All right. Thoughts on the video. I think she was correct in that sense of how we look for somebody else. That's what I was talking about earlier. We look for other people to make us happy. Now, I understand the part about not being right for that person at that time because sometimes you're not. And they was able to move on and he was able to find something better. And it may not always work out like that, but sometimes you have to think, do you want to be in this for 60 years and be sitting here unhappy but content? Or do you want to move on and actually find happiness? So I think the lady was right. And sometimes women just are never going to be satisfied. As long as they're looking outwards, women will never be satisfied.
Wow. I think when women generally when it comes to that type of thing, the selfishness. If you go in selfishness, you're gonna get that, and this contributes to what I said before. Once you are not a man's peace and cooperation, you're gonna be turned from main chick to side chick. You're gonna go from keepable to fuckable because men make up their mind based on that. If you're not keepable, I'll entertain you until something comes along that is keepable. If you do not bring the peace and cooperation, I have to show you that you're replaceable. There's something about what you said about getting him back that was funny. You cannot control the consumer mindset as far as if you can get him back. Because I used to hear women used to say, "I can get any man I want, or I can get him back if I wanted to." No, you can't. You was with him for how many years, but you can't get him back unless he wants you back. And what men go through, this is something that women don't understand too. Men will go through life recycling women, and you know when they're gonna hit you up when nobody else want their ass. And then all of a sudden that phone call comes. Hey babe, how you doing? I haven't heard from you in a long time. Nigga, I haven't talked to you since you cheated on me with them, the X and Y girls and da 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 da. Yeah, I know, but why don't we just hook up? And then when you do give him a chance, you find out the reason why he hooked up with you is because all these medical ailments, or he doesn't look like he used to, or guess what? Erectile dysfunction. He just backtracked.
Back to it.
Yeah.
Every time, man. Every time.
Yep.
Okay. I just don't believe it. But okay.
Every man backtrack at least once or twice in his lifetime. They do backtrack to something that they know they should have hanged on to, or they fucked up. They always do. It's called going through a drought season. Let's put it that way. Nothing new. So let's go back to the old, because it's been some months.
And that goes back to the hedonistic lifestyle that I was saying before. If men are constantly chasing their desires, and they can't really keep it in their pants, then all they're ever doing is going around trying to see the next one that they could actually sleep with, instead of actually trying to work things out with one person.
Well, remember though,
you're saying like, okay, you have an issue with a girl, so you have to teach her that, listen, I could just replace you. If every single girl you got to replace, you don't think you're the problem?
But this is the part that I didn't include. Remember what I said.
Okay.
There's certain men that have learned and mastered dick discipline, and there's certain ones that didn't.
I'd say the large majority have not. Yeah.
It takes a while because men are behind women when it comes to intellect and certain things. Yes, man.
That's just.
Why do you think women can cheat better than men and never get caught?
That's just a cope. That's just a cope. That's just a cope. That's just a cope. I think we live in a society that we're hypersexualized, so it's much easier to say, oh well, men are just sexual creatures, or men and women are just sexual creatures, so it's okay if we always want sex because it's cool. But that's just a cop-out.
But like I said, women
holding yourself accountable and saying, no, I'm actually going to try to reserve myself for one person. I'm actually going to take some time to actually get to know this person that I'm trying to sleep with and possibly start a family with, instead of just saying she's that one girl for the night. That's the problem.
But listen though, real quick. Women can hold out longer than men, not just because of their monthly menstrual cycle, but they have a different brainwave where they can go out longer. You talk about dick discipline. Remember, the woman can also hold out longer than the man. I'm saying.
No. So I say no to that, because the top men that all the women are the top men that all the women say that they want, those are also the guys that forgoed women for their purpose. They're the guys that said, you know what, I'm not going to spend most of my time and efforts and energy chasing women. I'm going to put all of that energy into building something that I can later use for my family, that I can later use for whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the problem, is men aren't chasing any kind of goal anymore. The goal used to be at least a family back in the day, but there is no idea for a family now.
Are you talking about majority of men or?
I'd say most men, yeah. I would say the most men care about running up their body count, and most women care about how much they can get out of a man without giving him sex. And that's why
I can't wait for this thing to come out. Okay.
That's why we're in this weird dating. The dating like scene is kind of just screwed up right now. Because
Okay.
it's like, all right, can I get sex without having to commit? And because women are just giving out sex like it's candy, then every man is just going to try to get it without having a commitment.
But there are two subdivisions of men that don't think like that. I mean, I know the other two, are different, but I know two subdivisions of men that don't think like that. They don't operate like that. Their mentality is nowhere close to that. That I know for a fact. Qualified men and basic men don't operate on that level. Because basic men are the ones that are traditionally, or not traditionally, commonly married. Those basic men, 9 to 5, they've been bus drivers for 30 years and so forth. Those guys don't have that mentality. They are married. They got to come home. The wife is cooked, clean, took care of the kids and all of that. The qualified man is holding out for that one woman that he can grow old with. He look at a woman like an investment, something that he has for a long period of time. So that mindset doesn't equate with what you just said. But the dollar store dude, yes, he does that. He's worried about body counts and recycling and don't care about what he tramples on as he goes through life. That's why you have what you describe is a lot of baby boys running around from the movie. They don't care. But to say in a general term that most men is like that, I wouldn't agree with, because like I said, the basic men that are like the James Evans from Good Times and your qualified men, they don't think like that.
I think the majority of men do think like that, but go ahead, Chris. I know you're about to say something. No? I think a majority of go ahead.
No, you go. You finish. I got a lot that I could
Gather
say.
your talk. So yeah, definitely a majority of men think like that. Are you kidding me? Like, all men are trying to get their body count up because that's what's perceived as desirable. And women are now in this competition with men thinking, okay, well, I'm going to at least sleep with as many as I can, or I'm going to get as much as I can out of each and every single one of them. But in the end of the day, it affects women a lot harsher, because when all is said and done for men, they're going to pick someone that they want to marry, and it's not going to look like the women that he's been running through. And when it's all said and done for her, she's going to look back and say, okay, is someone going to marry me now? And anyone that she's been with is going to say, are you kidding me? No. Why would I
So
want to
are
marry?
you saying that most of the women now are a product of collateral damage and are all mostly victims most of the time? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say a lot of women, the majority of women now have went through damaging relationships, because courting used to be courting and parents used to be what would weed a lot of these things out for a lot of women. But now women have taken the power upon themselves, #feminism, and decided, okay, I could pick the guys, I could sleep with whoever I want, I could do this, I could do it, or I could do it all.
Bypass vetting and all of that other stuff. Right.
Exactly. I could do it all myself, and cool. You have all the power to do it all yourself. But then in the end of the day, you have to also, take what comes with all of that, all of those choices that you made.
Okay.
If you're stuck by yourself with like 2-3 kids from 2-3 different men, then that's you.
So that means that they're not collateral damage and they're not victims, because if you make a conscious decision to pick people to sleep with or get with or have children by, and you're not asking the right questions, you're not thinking on a long-term thinking process, then yes, you're not a victim then, because it's sort of like, if you go outside and go to a drug dealer to buy drugs, you know damn well there's a chance you're going to get arrested. There's a chance it may be a setup, or you might get some bad drugs. You know this, so you're not a victim. You're not collateral damage. You went out there with the intentions of, and it backfired. That doesn't make you a victim, and that's not collateral damage. You're part of the problem.
So here is where my view might get a little, controversial, but it shouldn't really be controversial. and I'm still trying to, wrap my morals around this, because for any kind of community to be fixed, even back in the day, women that had kids were still getting married.
Oh yes.
Nowadays, it's not happening as much because I think those same women aren't humbling themselves enough and realizing I'm stepping into a position, bringing this man a little bit more than he actually wanted. So let me actually be nicer. Let me be a little bit more pleasant. Let me do a couple more extra things than I would have had to do if I was childless. But women aren't stepping to the plate with that. Women are still saying, well, I still do this, and this. Plus, I got kids. They're a package deal. Take it or leave it. And a lot of men are leaving it, which is really damaging everything. So you know what? I can't even say
because of the repercussions behind taking on that type of responsibilities and how bad it has became over the years. And I look at it as from before, like I said, our grandparents and so forth, that generally women was looking at marriage as an investment and something long term. Over the last 20, 30 years, they became more how can I say, more glued to the idea of the wedding, but not the marriage. In other words, I want the ring, I want the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 wedding, but I'm not concerned with the work to be a wife. I wasn't taught that, I wasn't conditioned that, and I'm just gonna walk into this blindly. And when it doesn't go my way, now we got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've always seen it in the last few years. They want they want the wedding, but they're not prepared or equipped for being the wife, being the marriage, or what it entails. Because it's like going to college, man. I want to be a psychiatrist. Okay, I'm cool with that. But do you know how much money it takes to be, that you got to put into that? How many years of work you got to put into that?
I think both sides aren't really ready to take on their
You didn't think that all through. And now you college dropout because you're like, hey, I didn't know it was going to be 8 years of college, 12 years of college, and 50 grand in debt. And then I still got to maintain everyday life, eat, cook. And no, yeah. Somebody should have taught you. Somebody should have told you. Somebody did. There was Signal. There was books. There was Google. There was things that you could have researched. You choose not to because you thought you can go the cheat code way or you can reinvent something. But people before you did exactly that.
Okay. I'm going to throw this question out to all of you guys. Is there such a thing as being 100% healed before coming into a relationship? Unique, I'll start with you. You're still there.
Good question. Nick.
She stepped away? Did she write in?
Oh, yeah, she did say she'd be right back. Yes.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Yes. Look at the thing.
Chris.
I think for the things that you know of, I think it's possible. What's difficult, though, that I think that there's oftentimes are things that people don't know, and they, kind of get uncovered when you are actually in the relationship, and you realize that you have to work on. But I think you can be 100% healed from your prior relationship before you enter into a new one. I think it's possible, and I think it should be the goal.
You think the goal should be to be 100% healed before getting into a relationship?
Yeah, you should be to the point where the things from your past relationship don't get brought up. You shouldn't be bringing up anything from your past relationships. You shouldn't, certain excuses like, oh, well, I act out when you do this because when I was 4, this happened. Things like that. I feel like if you know it well enough where you can say it out loud to someone and justify your negative behavior, that's something that you could have healed. Does that make sense? And I always tell people, if you can say it out loud, you're going through it, why you're acting this way, that's something that you should be able to heal. It's different if you didn't know that you had an issue, but
I would agree, but I can't because technically, if you can, if like you said, if you could say it out loud, and you're more attracted to trying to justify it, then right then and there, you're not trying to heal yourself. Because every time you justify something that you're doing that you know is not growth or positive or trying to heal itself, you're already starting on the wrong foot. And a lot of people, I don't think you can be 100% healed anyway, because remember they say you can forgive, but you can't forget. So I doubt that very seriously. The only thing you can do besides put a Band-Aid on it or learn to control or express, hey, this is my trigger. Let me, and I think it goes back to being lazy again. A lot of people don't want to heal. I don't think people want to heal because they're more, this is me. This is the way I am. Take me or leave me. That the idea of healing requires some real deep looking in the mirror. And you know, people are scared of mirrors. People are really scared of looking into their own eyes in the mirror and really, I mean, that's the most scariest thing I've ever saw in my life. You know, looking in the mirror and look deep inside your own eyes. It's scary.
No, I believe that. I don't think you have to be 100% healed, though.
No,
I
mean, the process, yes. It's a process, but you can be on this earth 40 years. You ain't going to heal from something that happened when you was 20. Here you are 60 years. You ain't going to be healed. You'll forgive.
Do you think you can ever be ready for a relationship, though?
I think people can be ready if they, like you said, if they humble themselves and they understand the audience. They, you know, once you understand yourself and you know your good, your bad, your triggers, and what can you bring to someone to, you know, help them better themselves and also teach you a few things. A lot of people don't think they can be taught anything. So that's why when they get into these relationships, it's like, oh, this is how I've been doing it. Yeah, but it hasn't got you the yielded results. You went through 10 different dicks and you still ain't married. You got 4 kids, 2 baby daddies, and you still, you know, yeah. So come on. You got to be willing to learn first.
That's kind of correct.
And learn your audience. Because like I said, the guy on the corner with his pants hanging off his ass smoking blunts every day is not the same as the guy that goes to formal dinners 3 times a week. It's 2 different mindsets. You got to learn the audience.
I agree. I agree with that to an extent.
I mean, you know, like you heard what I said before. You cannot walk into a spot looking for a job. They say you need a master's. You tell them you got a GED, but you're going to try to convince them they should accept you because you feel and you think you're qualified. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to know your audience. If you know you can only work in Target, Walmart, McDonald's, then damn it, stick to that. Don't try to go up there, you know, where being an astronaut or working for NASA with a GED. It's not going to work. They're not going to hire you.
I think I think the best you can be is 80% by yourself. I think that last 20 will always be worked out in a relationship. I don't think most people are ever going to be ready to be in a relationship. I think you can get yourself as prepared as you can, but you being ready for a relationship means you're going to be there to adjust yourself to make that relationship work.
I'll go 60-70%.
What?
I'll go with 60 to 70% because the rest, that person may be able to teach you how to cope and how to deal and how to, you know, how to deal with stress and how to overcome that. Remember, each one teach one.
Is a percentage for how much healed or how much ready for relationship?
I thought 60-70% heal. 60-70% heal is enough for you to progress.
60, I think, is a bit too low in my personal opinion.
I would say I think the 80 makes sense. I think that I think
80,
that's a good balance.
80 years, like you're pretty content in your life with 80.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Like
that
you're doing pretty well.
The things that you know about, you've worked on, you could kind of fix them, but then there are some things probably under the rug that you don't know about yet.
Correct.
But you're ready to fix them as they come up. But
And
I
that's
do
what
think
a relationship will expose those things.
exactly, yeah, and that's kind of what I was trying to touch on earlier. It's like the things that you know about should be healed before you enter into a relationship. I think 60 is also too low because a lot of people go into relationships thinking that their partner is supposed to be their therapist. Right? They can expose these things for you, but they cannot help you get through it. Like they can try and comfort you, but that only goes so far. They can only do that for so long. And I think a lot of, especially women, go through that where they're like I see a bunch of reels on Instagram where they're like, I'm sensitive, I've been hurt, I'm hard on the outside, but once you crack me open, I'm great. And it's just like all this long list of just all their
damage. Yes.
And it's no, it's not his job to work with you on all those things. It's your job to go and fix it. So that's your ability.
I was being generous with the 60, 70 only because I realized people evolve. You're not the same person you was when you were 25, 30, 35. You're constantly evolved. So I was given a little leeway for people changes in themselves. That's all.
I think that's the problem with the societies. We give people too much leeway. We should actually hold them to a higher standard.
Because everybody cannot adjust and get used to the new them. You know, when you was 25, right?
Okay.
A lot of things would bother you. You responded a certain way, whatever. But then at 35, then 40, those things don't bother you as much. Your response is different. So, and you have to adjust, adapt, and accept those new ways of dealing with it. You get what I'm saying? Road rage, whatever. I'm just saying there's a lot of things that we have to become comfortable with to allow ourselves to be ourselves, if that makes sense.
I think, to allow yourself to be yourself, but within a relationship, it's very different. Within a relationship, you're going to have to be yourself, but then you're also going to have to adjust to that other person coming into being themselves. And that's a lot harder than people are willing to put the work in to figure out. People have an idea of the person that they want. They don't actually accept the person that's in front of them.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of times, that's why a lot of relationships end, because people aren't honest or people aren't accepting of who is in front of them. They always want to change them. They're always going to want to, oh, you should be this way. Oh, well, I felt this way, but you should have done this to make me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So they did what they could because that's who they are. Are they going to try to adapt? Possibly. But you have to accept that they're not the idea that you have in your head, that's not them.
No, this is why we said before, a lot of people are not qualified or in a men's way, they're not ready for a relationship or not because they haven't got past to adjust, adapt, and accepting things. They just want to put their spin on it based upon what they want, not what they need, what they want. And I talked about that before. Everybody's more concerned about their wants than their needs, not realizing their needs is what gets them what they want.
Facts. Chris?
I think a major issue I think we deal with today is like codependence versus interdependence. Like people are too reliant on their spouses and significant others to make them feel healed. Like they basically make their partner their Band-Aid, right? And then if they were to like remove that person from their life, it's like they're gonna bleed out and die because they're just so reliant on that person holding them together that they never think about doing that healing at all. And it's
patterns and outcome because I'm gonna deal with this guy. I'm used to him coming in all the time throwing money at me. Guess what? Every dude you get with, you think they're supposed to do the same thing.
But is that what you're trying to go with, Chris?
I wasn't gonna go that far with the patterns thing, but it was just more so the mistake of going into something without doing any form of healing or not doing enough healing, and then this person, they comfort you, they help you cope, they become some of your therapists, and you become too dependent on them, and then you never do any type of healing because you kind of think mistakenly that you are healed because you're so dependent on this person to make you feel good about yourself versus making yourself feel good about yourself, right? Finding that happiness. Like, I think Dr. John Gray said the good percentage, which is why I agree with the 80%, in being like satisfied in relationships, about 80%. 80% of things in a relationship you should do because it makes you happy by yourself. Like, it has nothing to do with them. It just makes you feel good. Versus 20% are things that you guys do together that makes you happy. And that's a good balanced relationship where you're not codependent on them, but you are interdependent because you're never going to be completely satisfied by yourself because we're just social beings and we do crave romantic companionship.
And I love me some John Gray work. I swear to God, very, very introspective, that brother. I salute that.
That's why I've never even heard of stuff, but that's why I think the 80% is like, that's any person that's 80%, it's like you've done a good amount of work on yourself. Beyond that, no person can truly be at 100% by themselves. I just don't believe it. Like we're literally, I don't believe it. I don't
It
believe
can't be because you're constantly evolving. You're not the same person you was last year. Each person you come in contact with, have a relationship with, whatever, it does change certain particles within you. Your chemical balance in your body, your mentality, your habit. Come on, you get with a guy that's a health nut. It's going to be different than the guy that you was with that is totally into drinking and partying all the time. It's two different mindsets. And you're going to fall into some of that, or you're going to carry some of that.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think the extra 20% is more so to do with the fact that you need them. Like, the reason why you're not going to reach 100%, like, I think 80% is the 100% because that's like the maximum you can really get. The 20% is like you cannot give that to yourself because you need, like, it's
someone else.
Romantic relationships are a part of like the hierarchy of needs. Like, so it's you cannot fulfill that with just yourself. So that 20% has to be delegated to somebody else. But when you don't have it, you haven't lost your identity.
Correct.
Right. And when it goes away, you still haven't lost a major part of who you are.
Yeah.
But it is something that you have to fill. Sorry.
People that have that 80% are usually the ones that when they go through a heartbreak, they still hurt. They still go through that heartbreak, but they're still able to pick themselves back up, and not carry that damage into the next relationship. They can learn from it, adapt, and keep moving on. But the people that were below that 80%, those are the ones that are now carrying new damage and packages and bags and all that stuff to make up that 80% now. So if they came in with 60%, they took 20% damage with them now to make up that 80%. And now they're carrying all that into the next relationship.
This is my suggestion. I'm sorry.
Real quick. Chris, do you mind answering this? If you're okay with it.
Let's see. Some residue from past residue. I like that. This is a good question. I have experienced heartbreak. But my next relationship, residue. Not that I know of. Like I said, I think there's things that you have to heal that you don't quite know about yet. But I don't think so. That's actually how I learned about like femininity and stuff, is actually from that relationship ending. I always tell people I'm so happy that relationship ended. Like, that breakup was the best thing that ever happened to me. And like I always tell people, like, love breakups because sometimes people just have to deselect you in order for you to know. Like, that was something where I was codependent and I wouldn't have realized it if we had stayed together. And so I don't think there's I don't know. I thank God for that breakup, to be honest. I could carry something negative from it still, but
you got more positive. You got more positive out of it. That's why you rejoice.
Yeah, and it wasn't immediate. There was like I went like a month or so I was like absolutely crushed, and I like eased into dating again. So it wasn't easy. Like, that process wasn't easy.
Still painful.
But yeah, it was painful. But man,
I'm curious though, since y'all saying the 80%.
What's that?
I'm curious now with that. Now that I think about it, and I'm going to agree with y'all with that 80%, because if we can clone 20% of Black women today as Neek and 60 as Chris, I think we might have some progress here.
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
I don't know where you're going.
Okay, what I'm saying is, if we had women with the mentality of healthy conversations, intellect, without flexing, so to speak, I think we would have a
healthy community.
Yes.
I mean, I think I'm not gonna lie to you. You know what? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would like to believe that there's a healthy majority of women out there that are not about this, chase the bag kind of life. Here's what I think happened. Feminism hit. It affected women in two different ways. There are women that now became hyper materialistic, and now they wanted to use men, get whatever they can from men, sleep around as much as they can. I could be a man, blah, blah, blah. And then it hit some other women in the opposite way, which is like, okay, I don't need men. I'm going to hyper focus on my career. And now those are the women that I would say are a little bit more marriageable than the other one, because those are the ones that didn't make too many bad decisions that damaged them to hold on to them. But now they are hyper focused on their career. Their career is their badge.
That workaholic, and now this is why
correct.
They didn't start dating until 45, 50 when they got comfortable.
No, not 45, 50. Most of them are starting to notice in their 30s. But now when they look back in their 30s, most guys, and they look back in their 30s and realize they try to
invest nothing.
No. They look back, because now at like 30, they're looking back and like, oh man, like I never actually focused on a man. I kind of want to have a kid. I kind of want to start a family. So now they're looking out and trying to date and not realizing the dating landscape is now it's a battlefield.
Exactly.
So now that's where you talk about casualties. Now they become casualties. Now because they try to go out there and they try to be nice, because now these girls aren't like the other girls. These girls have just been focused on their career. So they're still coming out there like, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like, new to the dating market. They don't know much of anything. But all these women also still present themselves the same exact way with a hard exterior. So they're all going to get treated the same exact way. And now these women go through a little bit of heartbreak and then end up staying by themselves because they're like, yo, I can't go through that again.
Well,
so I think there's a good majority of those women out there, the ones that decided to chase their career and are now looking back like, oh, I should have focused on a man. But men aren't willing to. Men don't have the heart to actually listen to that, and I think that's where the problem is too.
I was going to say, and Chris can back me up or not. A lot of it has to do with women whispering in other women's ears. Like, Chris, think of how many women whisper in your ear and tell you, girl, you should do that, girl, and you know damn well they was dead wrong or out of line or, but a lot of it has to do with, I call it the Jehovah's Witness thing. I hope I don't offend nobody. It's like, I'm trying so hard to convert you into my thinking and my way because I made mistakes or, I think no. You fucked up those 10 different days, and this is your outcome. Don't be going in Chris' ear trying to tell her how to get the bag and do this, that, and the third, and go in Neek's ear and try to get a movement going. I think that's what, a lot of it comes from. Women are whispering in each other's ears. The girl that's in her whole phase is in the ear of the older generation and vice versa. And next thing you know, it become a whole calamity of the same.
Yeah,
the failure and the whole phase meet, and this is what you got. Think about it. Chris, like, what the hell? Think about it. The older chicks that made their mistake and they have not accomplished what they thought they was going to accomplish their way, they entangle with these young chicks who's going through the whole phase, getting the bag, stripping and carrying on. They meet and they start collaborating.
Chris, you were
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I do think that the people that are cheering women on to go down the more career path are other women.
Yeah.
And then some dads that are like, I don't want my daughter to, get with any of these really bad men. So let me just teach her how to take care of herself. So I'm not worried about her choosing a bad man to be with instead of teaching her how to choose a good man to be with,
Or
because
yeah,
our culture is kind of put down like dad's feting. And so he knows that he doesn't have a say. So he just teaches her to just not date men at all and just work forever. It's easier for him.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
so
want you to be
I
a
think,
forever virgin.
I guess I wouldn't say they go that far, but I think, however, I do think that what ends up happening is that women, older women basically tell their daughters and their nieces that they don't need a man, and that they have to make sure they find themselves first. I think that's where the issue is. Like, women then become codependent on their jobs because they think their job is their identity. And so they get so sucked into that. You even see it in dating. These women are like, why are these men using me for money? It was like, well, when you went on the date, all you talked about was how much money you had and how successful you were. So he didn't see what other value you had.
What else are you going to go off of?
Exactly. And
That's the misconditioning of, instead of teaching them to be wives, you're teaching them to be alone.
Yeah. It's more so instead of teaching them how to understand what men are looking for in general, It's really hard to teach somebody how to be someone else's wife. Like I always say, there's certain building blocks, but for the most part, you're kind of going to be customized to how to be a certain man's wife. You're not going to know everything.
You just be the basics, and then the rest follows as you go into bed.
But the idea is there are certain things that you have to understand in general about men in order to be successful in dating, period, versus being a successful wife. Like before you can be a wife, you have to actually know how to be pleasant,
Well, we got a world full of professional girlfriends.
What do you think those general things that men would want are?
Hey.
Hi, Nate. Welcome back.
Hi. I'm sorry, young.
No worries. So what do you think those general things that men want are? Yes.
Pleasant. What's the word? Like smooth tempered. Like they don't want you to be hot headed.
Why y'all always get stuck on those words?
You know what? Let's get one married lady's opinion on this, okay? Not the three, just one.
No, but seriously, I gotta interject with that.
Hold on.
Why is that so hard?
Wait.
It's just when you're under pressure, it's hard to answer any question like that.
It's hard to definitely follow up with that. But Unique, chime in on this. What is it that men actually want?
I feel like they want peace.
Damn it.
They want cooperation.
Why only married women know this shit?
Girl, take it easy, man.
Want attentiveness. They want to be felt like they being heard.
I apologize.
They just want to be, they just want to have sex and be left the fuck alone a lot of times.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's doing anything. I apologize to y'all, but it's funny because I just went on live where that question came up, and I said, "Why only the women that are married know this shit, and the single women are always sitting there, with no clue. Why? The first thing that should come out is peace and cooperation. Only married women know that.
I think that's true. I think, like, in this particular case, I think it's just harder when you're on the spot. I feel like I've answered that question before, but I do think a lot of women don't know.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of married women today, oftentimes they don't really think about it either. Like they think girls' trips are okay. I think it's more so that a lot of women in general don't really know what men are looking for until it's too late.
Wow. That's why I sent Clement and Neek a video today in regards to that. It was my girl, I love her. She was talking about good pussy, how it keeps a man coming home and keep him on the straight now. And it wasn't her pussy that she was really referring to. It's a matter that you cannot boast about what you got and it's not yielding the results that you should be having. In other words, if you got good shit, you shouldn't have to do or say anything. That man is always calling you before he comes home, baby, you need anything? As opposed to, he's going to say, if you got that good shit, he's going to make sure of certain things. You don't have to ask him. He's going to make sure. But if you are with a guy and you got to ask him and you got to go through hoops and then obviously your shit ain't that good. Meaning not just women, but I'm just saying you as a woman. So that's why.
That's where we're also going to disagree because I just think we're going to, but I'll bring up Simon real quick. Simon, my man, what's up, bro?
Oh.
Yo.
What's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, no, I'm in the back, I'm just chilling.
Chilling?
Yeah, I really like the conversation. I just thought it was a really good point that Ebony brought up about that. And I've been doing this on my streams, and I know it's kind of boring to some people, but I really do not think that a lot of men understand women, because they look at women like girls, and have this sort of fantasistic sort of way of objectifying them, until they get into a relationship with them and find out that, you put them in a house and try to tell them and give them direction about what to do in your house. It becomes a problem. And then that's where men start coming at each other and going, oh, we've had these problems with this and that, where we don't actually sort of have conversations at all about what it is to be like in a relationship with a woman. We sort of close ourselves off. And I think it's kind of interesting because it's starting to surface to an extent. Women are beautiful objects to men. Like, we think image-wise first. We look at a woman.
Objects?
And no, we objectify first. That's what we do. Like, we see a woman like in terms of image. Like, so
you said it right.
Are you saying I'm wrong?
No, you said it right because
okay,
men are
cool.
visual.
Yeah, but that's why it's literally, and I've had to learn this the hard way because it's like I've been with a lot of women that are fine. You get what I mean? But it's when I started to get to know them, I was like, oh shit,
buyer's remorse.
I was like,
I don't want to misconstrue, but Simon, I 1,000% agree with you that when we look at, we are looking at their artistical shapes. I get that, but I don't want, for the audience, I don't want them to misconstrue and think, oh, men just want pussy, or men just want to sleep with women, and that's the highlight. That's not the highlight, because like I
didn't go.
Hold on, Simon. To Carl and Simon, what is it that women want out of their man for a marriage?
Consistency, stability, safety, and trust, and good dick.
Simon, thoughts?
Firstly, it would. They're not going to say this, but it would be security.
Okay.
And secondly, it would be. And this is something I'm still trying to figure out. But there's something where a woman likes to have a man where she can balance it out with her own lifestyle, like in terms of like she has girlfriends and stuff like that. So she likes to have a man where she could go back to her girlfriends and they can identify with her to not make her feel that she needs to, be in another sort of position. So,
that's so childish, though, bro.
Well, hold it. Carl, you need to stop. Listen, I'm telling you.
No, Simon, I'm going to let you finish, and then I'm curious on what Unique says about this. Okay, so Simon, finish real quick, and then I'd like to get Unique's point. Go ahead.
No, I'm not saying this from a personal perspective, or it's just not my thought process. This is something I've discovered. Like my ex-wife liked the fact that she could speak about me to her peers for some strange reason. Now, I never got my head around this, and I still haven't. And I think this is something men don't really understand. Like there's a competition that goes amongst women. So if she has a man, she likes to speak greatly about that man if she's that type of woman. Like if she's like,
Girl, he bought me this. Girl, he took me here. Girl, like a fucking Instagram page.
No, but that's for real. And no, we can't get away from it. And I know like a lot of people give me pushback about this, but for real, if you're stepping into a modern age relationship, that's what it is. Like women are competing with each other. They're not competing with men. So like they have their friends and stuff. They get their haircuts, they get their hairdos, they fashion up, they do all this sort of stuff, and they feel like if I'm doing all this sort of stuff, then you need to be that type of person because you need to understand that I'm doing all this sort of stuff. Now this is what modern men are dealing with. So this is where now modern men are backing off and they're going, look, you're either going to be this or that, and it's like, okay. I ain't gonna be this because I'm never gonna be this, and at the same time, I'm gonna earn more money than you, so you can't tell me what to be.
So basically, you're saying I need you to help me look better than Sally.
Not look better. Be on a plate in a place where I don't have to compete with that. So it's like you're having a conversation with someone. Look, yo, Carl, if we met up, right? I said, "Oh yeah, Carl, let's go for a coffee."
Wait, hold on. It's gonna derail the conversation real quick.
Yeah, sorry.
Unique, are you there?
Let me see. Hold on.
Hey, I'm sorry.
She's here.
Did you hear what Simon said?
No, what he said. I'm sorry.
Unique, stop taking lunch break.
He said a lot, Unique.
No,
Okay.
I mean, just the end part. What did he end with?
Oh boy! All right, Nick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just say it one more time. What is it that?
Do women compete with each other?
Of course, women compete with each other.
So if you got a man, right? Like, are you married or you are?
Yes,
right?
I am married.
Yeah, so it's kind of different. Like, so if you could sort of think of yourself as or you might have a friend that's single or something.
No, she's actually the perfect person.
No, that's what I was gonna say. She's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're talking about a married woman, and she's a married woman, and she would be telling you exactly how a married woman will be thinking in a relationship.
So, as a married woman, do you compete with other married women, or is it just your own thing in your own space and you're locked in?
I don't think. I mean, women do have cattiness no matter what. So even when you're married, I can admit to myself that I have talked to my husband about other people because that's your partner, talk to your partner about everybody. and would say to myself, man, I'm so glad I don't have that problem.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I would say to myself, I couldn't deal with that. And to me, that's sort of like a, not competition per se, but like, what I got is better than that, so I'm good.
That's
but women are
competition.
always doing that. Like, women are always, like, not necessarily, I don't go around and tell people what I know about the person, but I just listen and be like, damn, I'm happy that I don't got to deal with that. So some women can deal with certain things and some women can't. And some women be like, well, mine is better because at least I ain't got to deal with that. But it's your preference.
Do you, Nick, do you use him to show off in front of your girlfriends?
Yeah, I have. I've done it.
Right. You see,
that's what men are there.
Right. See, that's exactly what I was talking about. And that's natural. There's nothing wrong with it. I think women naturally do that sort of stuff. And when you get into a relationship.
Well, that's why men are the prize.
Right.
Nobody's the prize.
Right, Clement. Yes.
Nobody's the prize.
No. Yeah, no, there has to be a prize. You can't
But with me, it was more of what he did for me in front of them. Not necessarily how he looked or that. It was
how he treated you.
My competition was somebody who you're going to see somebody who is going to care for me in every way and going to treat me like a feminine woman. Like that to me was the competition in my because you have men that just don't do stuff for you like men.
The small things that he does, like you guys are sitting at the table, that he'll come and pull out your chair.
So that's my big boast in competition. Not like he looked better, he can do more sit-ups. No.
So if like you was at like a wedding, right, with your husband, and another like there was an ex-divorcee that you knew that was at that wedding, and they knew about your situation, and she walked up to your husband and started being flirtatious, how would you respond?
Oh, that's gonna be we gonna. Whew.
No, I mean,
that's a good question, but I would like to be like, Nick,
it depends with me because I got moods. I'm a Scorpio. I got moods.
Oh, jeez, this Scorpio.
I was gonna say, can we ask you what the 25-year-old you would do? 30-year-old?
Don't matter what age it is. I'm telling you, in that situation,
I was just saying how much she grown. So
every from when I've been like 19 to 30 to 40, with every type of partner I've had, and I've gone to an event, and some woman has walked up and introduced herself and started waving her hair around and like pulling her hands in her hair, going, okay, like the partner I was with would be like, give me some daggers, man.
Well, women can sense that shit.
You know what I would do most likely, I'm not gonna say the 25-year-old will do it, but the 30 and up person would just slip like right in between them and kiss him and hug him or whatever.
Casually inject yourself into the conversation.
Like,
and show him affection. Like, hey.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at him. Hell no. That somebody just came on to my husband. Won't be mad at him for.
Yeah, that's,
no.
That's props. That means you got yourself a trophy.
Yeah, like somebody else want him. Won't be mad at him. As long as he don't want them, I don't care about that. As long as he pay me attention when I come in his face and he ignore her, then we good.
Closing statements, because my camera's already died. I got nothing else.
Damn.
And that's why you gotta be on time, man. All right.
You gotta plug it in, man.
But closing statements. We're gonna start out with Chris.
I don't really have too much to close with. I just think I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hit that like, subscribe button on your way out. I would say possibly as you're listening to content, try to be as objective as possible. And then also try and do your own research, because not everything you hear in the manosphere is right, even if it makes you feel heard and validated. Sometimes that can do you more harm than good. But yeah, that's all. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks for watching.
We got the one married lady.
Okay, I knew you was gonna come to me next, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's okay. So, closing statements when it comes to what a married lady, married woman, engaged woman, a single woman, and an engaged woman and a single man, a married woman, engaged woman, single man advice. Okay, all right. So, I feel like both sides have points when it comes to the manosphere and the feminine stuff, because I feel like they both go too far on the spectrum, and we need to find some way to come into the middle and have that balance. So, and if you're working on yourself, then you won't be worried about somebody else trying to do something for you. So those are my closing statements. Tune in next Tuesday, 8:30.
We got Carl.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? Call Chef on Instagram. And like I said, I'm working on this book that's driving me nuts. It's called 13. The reason why is because it's dealing with 9 subdivisions of women, 4 subdivisions of men, their mindset and their outcomes. So keep tuned. I'll be getting that out hopefully soon. But like I said, it's good to have a perspective, married women, single women, so that way you can learn from both mindsets and know how to pursue and operate from there. So I love the content, and come back next Tuesday. You never know who's hosting.
Simon, my man. Who's muted? You muted, buddy.
Sorry, bro.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that with all the sound effects and stuff. I'm still learning. Peace of the panel. I appreciate you having me. I think like this has been a real interesting conversation, and that's always what I chime in. Like, subscribe to the channel. I'm sure there's more to come, and I'm it's going to get more interesting. I've got a book coming out. It's coming out in 2029. I don't know what the title is. Shout out to Carl. We're gonna get on. But peace out.
Okay, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, my camera's died. But I think it's been a great conversation tonight. We definitely learned a lot about the different dynamics between men and women. To the young men out there that are struggling in the dating life, I would say take a step back from trying to look towards dating so hard and really focus on building yourself up, building up your life. Gain some kind of hobbies, gain some kind of new skills, gain new talent, build up your circles, your social circles, because a lot of times where the most fruitful relationships end up is in your social circles. So you have a lot of people that are around you that could bring you the best kind of relationships, but you're not making your social circle as productive as it can be. So you, as a person, need to get out and actually start doing that. To the women, I probably can't give you the best advice. You can ask either the engaged woman or the married woman on the panel to give you that advice. But my advice, the best that I can give is really try to involve men in your life that care about you, that are also blood related to you, into your relationships, because they can give you an objective
insight. Yep.
An objective insight into your actual situation as to how to better yourself for relationships, as opposed to going to any kind of other source that's going to tell you that everything you're doing is right and it's keeping you single. So that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great, productive conversation tonight. We will see you again same time, 8:30 p.m. next week at Tuesday. Until then, you have a great night. Peace and wait a minute. Hair grease.
Oh shit.
If we're doing everything right, I think